You're listening to an episode recorded during the time Innovation Fuel was part of University Canada West. We are proud and grateful for the work we've done together, and we want to thank the university for being in our podcast. We are now excited to continue the journey of Innovation Fuel into its next chapter. Thanks for listening.
You're listening to Innovation Fuel, a business podcast by University Canada West.
Bringing you fantastic stories from accomplished entrepreneurs and key industry professionals. Let's explore the entrepreneurial world through local businesses and our university community.
Gelareh, hey, what is going on?
Do you know my daughter is playing Taekwondo and she really likes it, and finding the right coach and trainer is really hard, and we found a very good one. But I'm wondering if you don't have access to good trainers.
How do you leverage the technology around you to make these people more accessible? So like maybe you have a top coach from professional team that wants to do some give back and wants to help some kids sort of develop, or you have an athlete that wants to give some tips back to kids on how to develop their skill around certain things. They're having that connection, because how are they engaged with us? They're engaged with us in big events and activities, but can we get them down to a one-on-one element? Is it possible?
I think that technology actually really helpful to help us to have access to good resources. And so the sport can be one of them. So how, if you want to be athletes, really want to focus on what you're doing in the sport. So do you have access to right coach, to right trainer, or you get receive a feedback from the experts under your own field? Soccer, it can be hockey, it can be many things. So how are you going to have access to that one? Through the apps, maybe mobile apps. It can be very possible to send a video to someone and someone give you feedback. It's very expert on that field. I think that we have someone today that he can help us. Taylor is here to help us to understand how technology can help athletes.
Yes. Hello, Taylor, and welcome to Innovation Fuel. We're so excited to have you on the show. But before we get into our conversation, we got to know a little bit about you, my friend. We got to connect you to our audience. Tell us a little brief summary of who you are, Taylor.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me on the podcast. I'm happy to be here. A little about me. I'm just a guy who likes to go outdoors. I love tech, have a tech company, and I love sports. I think I'm just a very basic guy. I mean, it's always hard when people ask me about me. I just love to do work, love to get things done. I think at the end of the day, I love the idea of execution and operations.
You like a sport and tech. It's a great combination.
You kind of said sport and tech, but and I see some things in your sort of background about some entrepreneurial pieces. You like to try new things, I think, eh?
It was funny. We were on a phone call not too long ago with someone who's another CEO of a company for someone we're getting services from. And we were actually on a call with her and then one of the people that work for her company. And it was funny because she just had mentioned how it was me and my co-founder, her and the worker. And she was like, okay, like to her worker, she was like, you don't really understand the conversation here, because it's like entrepreneurs are really risky people and like to do a lot of, things to try new things, see how things work. And definitely part of my story. I love the idea that, the more things you try, the more, chances you are closer to making something work at some point, whether you take those things in and actually learn from them. So I've done, definitely many different sort of things. So like when I was at BCIT, finishing up my diploma there, I decided that in between my first semester or my first year and my second year, that I was going to, try and actually do some digital marketing to, actually figure out, okay, is entrepreneurship for me? Because I was in the entrepreneurship option there. And so in that first summer, I decided to not take an internship or co-op, which could easily be done to get some experience and some work experience. I instead decided to just knock some doors of businesses and try and help them with their social media and digital marketing. And to prepare for this, and one thing that, anyone that wants to go into entrepreneurship should do is just do something for free. And I did a lot of that work for free for someone that I knew that was in real estate to test it out and see just how good I am at doing, digital marketing at the time and playing around in that. And so did that for 3 months with him. And then after that, I had enough to then go and actually get work with, an actual company that they were doing. It was a CrossFit gym in Langley. And so I'd work with them and I was making about $700 a month from them after knocking, doors for about a week in the first week of the summer, which I think a lot of people like in that first week, it was very like, it didn't feel like a week. It felt so much longer because you have a lot of your friends that are in your school are already out there working and making money. And you're sitting there like, I have nothing. And so in that first week, I was lucky enough to get on the phone and be able to do the product for this CrossFit gym in Langley, which was a great starting point. And then by the end of the summer, I had 11 clients and was doing $3,000 a month just from helping these people with digital marketing. And that was a great, experience, especially going into the last sort of year of schooling. Unfortunately, by December of that year, because I continued doing it, obviously, because you have this drive and you're already working with them. By December, I just stopped doing that because at BCIT, you're in 8 classes. So I stopped doing that. But, continued on like a few months later, I came up with an idea called Trova, which was just Airbnb for parking, not anything like revolutionary, because obviously people have thought about that at some point. And this was March of 2019. So a few months after just stopping doing that, my mind was already wondering about the next sort of thing that I can do. And I think anyone that has an entrepreneur spirit or anything like that can relate that you're always like thinking about something. And so then I started doing Trova, which I came up with just because I would drive to BCIT and I didn't want to pay for $5 a day for parking. And so there was houses across the street from BCIT that had free parking for 2 hours, but you would get tickets, and it was numerous, like people would get tickets all the time over there because they would park for the entire day instead of just parking at school and paying. So you'd end up paying way more in tickets. So instead, I just thought, okay, maybe I'll knock some doors around here and see if some families or people living in here are willing to rent out their parking space to their house just to kids during the day. And that kind of got started up. We were building the tech and everything. And we were in the SFU Venture Connections Accelerator. And as well, we had a few students actually saving 50% on their parking by just parking over on the other side of the street, which is just funny enough that it's literally just maybe a 5 minutes extra to your walk or 2 minutes extra to your walk. So I was doing that for a bit. I had then graduated from BCIT. So I was working and doing this on the side as well. And then the pandemic sort of hit, which then obviously takes all that away because nobody was going to school or driving to school. And so we were still in Venture Connections doing that. But then came the idea for Treno at the time too, which has just exploded a lot quicker than anything I've ever done in the ways of investment in tech and kind of merging. Like I said, like I love tech and I love sports. I did play high level cross when I was a kid. I was scouted in Div 2 and I played on a team that toured down in the States. So I was able to merge the two with what I'm doing now. So that's kind of like a lot of random things.
I think that we have many, many interviews with a lot of entrepreneurs. It's always, most of them, they are connecting their hobbies to what they know and try many things finally to find out what is the best for them. But I have a question. What is Treno's?
Yeah. So what we're doing is, and where the idea stemmed from, is just this idea that a youth athlete would be able to send their game film or practice film to a pro athlete, a semi-pro athlete, or a really high-level coach. They played at such a high level that they can give a lot better feedback than, someone who has a coach who never even made it to play A in lacrosse or whatever, or never played rep, or is a beer league coach and can never really help them to get to maybe where they want to go. And also this idea that you can just watch drills on YouTube and those actually end up helping you, which in reality, it's not personalized to you. Everyone's watching those. Those are very basic. It's not this next level of help. And so within the application, you're actually able to send 3 minutes of game film. You send what you want feedback on directly, and you can send that off to a pro within the sport. Obviously, there's a cost to it. It is a marketplace, but within that, you then receive personalized feedback within the form of a selfie from that pro athlete. So if you're a youth athlete, 13 to 18, that can be super big because you do get to keep it after as motivation, but those are personal connections that you can never get otherwise. Like one other thing that we saw within Treno is that, a kid who lives in the middle of Canada or the middle of the States can't go to these huge camps that are taking place on the West Coast or the East Coast. They're never going to be, a huge camp is never going to be in North Dakota. So creating a spot where you're able to connect with these people from anywhere. And COVID really helped come up with the idea, obviously, that you're not able to reach these people. But that's, essentially what we're doing at Treno.
So typically, Taylor, these individuals, these professional athletes, they run camps themselves?
Yeah, so a lot of these pro guys. So, for example, we have Michael Del Giudice from the NHL. We have who else we got? NWHL player Mallory Soloiotis. We have from lacrosse personal connections. I have Ryland Rees, who's an all-world player. We just got Ryan Lee, who's one of the all-time players at RIT for lacrosse. These guys would be guys that would hold camps as well. We're also going to have guys that don't hold camps, like CFL players. We have tons of CFL players that have come on. So even people who are at a high level but don't have the opportunity to set up camps or reach out to these kids. So it's another spot for kids to then reach them. Typically, they'll have camps, but more than often not.
So you mean that if one person's a 14 years old boy in Pakistan wants to get as the coach in, for example, Vancouver or Italy?
For sure. Like that's a whole point of it, right? Like, especially for in basketball, I can't wait till, at the point that we're able to reach the Chinese market or markets that, are big for basketball outside of the United States and kids that want to get better, especially even in soccer, where there might be kids that are in the States and Canada that want to get really good at soccer. But as we all know, like soccer in North America isn't at the same level that is in Europe or Asia as well. The whole point of it, is just connecting these two that you can't do. Like kids can't pay, or parents don't normally have the money for a kid to be able to connect with these athletes in the way that, higher net worth individuals are able to send their kid to a camp that costs $3,000 or $1,000 to go to, including having to pay to get there in most cases as well.
But you also have a two-sided model here too, Tyler, because you have as Gelareh is talking about, it's a target market, that 13 to 18. And it seems like they're high performance. They're on track to go to more professional elements. But you have the other side. You got to build the funnel on the other side in order to have the drawing power.
That's the thing about marketplaces, that it's one of the hardest things at the end. And the funny thing is like the majority of the businesses that I've tried to do are in marketplaces, which I recently was listening to something and it kind of made my eyes open and look into that. The majority of the biggest businesses in the world and the ones that kind of rule the world are at the end of the day marketplaces, whether you know that they are or not. And yeah, getting the supply side is definitely, one of the hardest parts. But once you really get it going, you're really well off and especially in our case. So, once we can make it a streamlined process to get these athletes on, whether that's through referrals and reach outs, it makes it a lot easier. So right now we're averaging a new athlete every day. And typically that's for free right now because we've reached out to CFL players, AHL players, guys who are just on the cusp of being something that someone like would pay hundreds of dollars for. But these guys, like an average youth athlete is going to spend $30, maybe upwards of $50 for that feedback, because these are still people that play at a level that you would see as way higher than what you've gotten to. Like it still is very hard to get in the CFL. It's still very hard to get in the AHL. So there is some worthiness there. So filling up our supply side and doing that before even launch as well is hard as well, because you're trying to attract these athletes in our case that we can't tell them, hey, these are the metrics. You're going to be making $1,000 a month or $2,000 because we don't even have those metrics and we don't want to tell them something that's a lie.
There are two questions here for me. It's that what is the cost of delivery for you as a Treno? And another one, parents are paying, the kids are paying, and the coach are paying to you?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different things that run into that. Cost of delivery when it comes to the application itself doesn't really cost us anything. That's the great thing about being in tech, is that we can scale it up. So really little to none besides outside of what the application was costed to actually make in the first place. Outside of that, like I said, like right now we're averaging with the marketing spend, and that's something I can talk about too, is that our marketing concept is marketing through a lot of the athletes that we have coming on board. And some athletes that are NHL guys, NBA guys, they're not going to do that for free. So there is a cost to that. The average cost per athlete currently over the board, due to some athletes costing a lot more than certain athletes, is about $1,000 per athlete right now. That's going to only go down as we bring on a lot more of these athletes on for free. We're finding that CFL, AHL, all those guys are coming in. Tons of them are coming in for free. But a lot of these guys who are NBA guys don't want to come on for free in the first place because there's no guaranteed, hey, you can make $10,000, even though at some point we hope to get them making 10 grand a month from just doing doing a certain amount of Trenos per month. So once we have that, we're going to be able to lower that dramatically in the long term. But right now, that's just how much it has to be. We're dealing with people that are already making millions of dollars and we need to attract them. On the other side, athletes themselves don't have to pay anything outside of what their time is worth. So we have made it so a Treno will only take maximum, or I guess minimum, 5 minutes of their time. So that's by reducing the amount of minutes they have to watch game film for, which is 3 minutes maximum, making it super easy for them to read and know that there's feedback. Okay, they want this one piece of feedback. I'm looking for that in the film. Maybe they know what they want to give feedback on within the first minute of that game film. It's up to the pro athlete. We've seen no problems so far from a lot of the athletes that are coming on. Some have even said that they're willing even to do longer. On the other side, though, with our actual paying users, our youth athletes and parents, we have yet to sort of see where that comes from within the statistics of the company. But we're most likely going to see, at the very minimum, we most likely will see a 50-50 youth athletes versus parents, because we do deal with 16, 17, 18. They're probably willing to pay and have the money to spend on a Treno here and there if it's $30 or $25. And a parent who's a parent of a 13, 14, 15, going to 16 years old, depending on if they work or not. One thing that we've heard from these parents is that they hear that some other kid in their class or their team has gotten a Treno from said athlete, that a lot of them are going to be willing to turn around and pay that money as well to get their child that same experience. Because nothing beats, in my opinion, nothing beats that moment where a kid sees their athlete who they like or an athlete that they know, giving them feedback, that the face that they get. And if you watch anything of kids just being able to be interacting with those athletes, it's nothing that's going to be beat. So we have no doubt that a lot of these parents are going to be willing to pay for, especially those younger kids.
With that, Taylor, what type of revenue model are you looking towards? A per transaction revenue model? Or are you going to lean towards a subscription-based model? How do you move forward to enlighten those individuals?
Yeah, so in the marketplace, we do per transaction. We do look at a subscription in the very long term. It doesn't make sense at the start for us to go that direction. And so with the marketplace, we do a 75-25. It's the same as a lot of what our competitors do as well. It's not a not known sort of structure. So 25-75, following the same idea of how most marketplaces work, and hopefully along, in the long term, able to kind of change and adjust as we see different revenue opportunities.
There is any legal challenge you have for your app?
I guess the one thing that we've had to make sure is within terms of service and all that kind of jazz is that no one can use these Trenos that a pro athlete sends as marketing material. That's not allowed, just because obviously that's, you don't have their name and likeness. They are an individual that has power to them. So you can't use those. So we've had to make it very much within our terms of service and adjusting that to make sure that it fits within our business model, because we are utilizing, it's not a product that people are paying in the marketplace. It's an actual person. And within that takes a lot of different things. So we've taken a lot of caution to make sure that within our dashboard and within our company that we're able to, make quick moves if there's someone that, sends a Treno that isn't appropriate to a youth athlete. In that case as well, we have the right things in place to make sure that those things don't happen. But other than that, we haven't run into anything. I'm sure down the line, as we're utilizing people that have high celebrity status in some ways, that we will, but nothing so far.
So with Taylor, because the other side of it that comes to my mind is the liability of the athlete that makes a recommendation to the kid. The kid does that, breaks their leg. How do you release the professional athlete from these things? Because it could be a pretty slippery slope.
Yeah, so that's the same as it's the same as telling someone that this isn't financial advice. At the end of the day, it's saying, hey, this is not going to make you a pro. This is here as advice to you, and you can take it whether or not. It's really in that case, how we go about it and how we make sure that when people are coming to Treno, they know that, hey, this isn't just because these are coming from people that are a very high standard, that at the end of the day, it still is, your personal situation that you still have to go out and do the things that you need to do. So at the end of the day, it's taking feedback from anyone. It's really up to you, and to know that this isn't something that, is going to make you a pro all of a sudden just by doing this, and making sure that that's put out to these youth athletes beforehand is something that we're making sure to have them involved. And that's something that we tell a lot of these pro athletes when they're coming on, that, hey, by the way, these kids aren't coming for super structured advice, because at the end of the day, you're just getting a selfie video back. That they're coming for the connection with the pro athlete and with themselves, and the feedback that can be pertained within that.
So where do you see, Taylor, where do you see this going? Like, where do you see you're scaling up to? You see, you're pulling in athletes on one side, you're pulling in potential individuals that want to become professional athletes. Where do you see Treno going?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I hope it becomes something that, any youth athlete can hop on and get feedback from, and utilize to get better, and make it part of their journey to either become a pro or to just get to a level that they've dreamed of getting to. I think that, at the end of the day, we'd love to have a story. A youth athlete comes on and is able to end up becoming a pro just with, the feedback that they receive, among other things that they're doing, because, at the end of the day, they're going to have to utilize them a lot more than just Treno. But, hopefully that, we can get a user base from, every country on the planet, and be able to make connections that aren't currently made, and be able to grow every game that we're in, and to grow the pro athletes brands that they come on for. But at the end of the day, it's just helping our users and helping these youth athletes get better. So hopefully, we can grow into a big brand that, is able to, become another lovely unicorn within Canada. But at the end of the day, we want to, have our customers' mind at first, and make sure that we're building a product that can be utilized by anyone across the planet, and has all the sports. Right now, we only have hockey, basketball, football, and lacrosse. We do want to get into soccer, golf, tennis, and any sport. So it's kind of an all-in-one tool. If you play that sport, that you'd be able to reach out to those high-level athletes and high-level coaches.
The final question that I have from you, who is your competitor?
At the end of the day, obviously our main competitor, being indirect in a way, would be Cameo, which can very much, if they wanted to, they could turn on the switch of doing something just like we're doing. They do have a user base already with over 40,000 celebrities and about 8,000 athletes on their platform to give personalized videos for happy birthdays and sort of just a virtual greeting card in their case. But if they wanted to, they could turn on the lights, and that's something that we always have to keep in mind, and making sure that these companies that are bigger are doing that. So Cameo, I think it's Mimo, which is collecting a lot of, it's the same thing as Cameo. It's basically a rip of Cameo, but more so they're directed with, European-based celebrities and everything. They're there. And then also on top of that, at the end of the day, we're also competing with, people who hold camps, as well as have platforms that do basic drills and everything, where someone could go use that instead of using Treno. So there's nothing on a big scale that's doing exactly what we're doing, but there's definitely these other types of things where we have to make sure that if they decide to come in the market, which would be probably once we show that this is an actual thing, that we have to keep those guys in mind and be able to battle against those guys too.
One last question on my side is that, do you see an opportunity for possibly alignment with big brands like Nike and, big Adidas and Elements, and maybe creating further value for connecting their professional athletes to these individuals?
That's something that's been brought up a whole lot along the way, is because of the fact that, if we're having a big user base of youth athletes, obviously Nike and Adidas and these sports brands would love to be able to reach into those people directly through, their athletes that they already have. Maybe that's through some sort of sponsorship or some sorts of different sort of business ways that doesn't take away from our product. Obviously, we don't want to just have ads splattered around the product, which would make it super weird to use. But alignments in the ways of whether those athletes who are sponsored by Nike wear certain things within their Trenos, Adidas, the same sort of thing, or doing certain initiatives with each other to make sure that we're able to push out and align with, their market, which is essentially the same market as us at the end of the day. We've seen a lot. It'll be said once we have a larger user base to start that conversation up and see. But we definitely can see the tie-in and the crossover within those big brands. And hopefully we can do work. I mean, it'd be great to do work with those type of people.
Excellent, Taylor. This has been very exciting and very interesting, my friend. Before we wrap up our show today, we've got to ask, do you have a challenge for our students? Do you have a challenge maybe for a class that we can throw out there? And maybe we can get our students working on something for you.
I love the idea of challenging, to kind of execute on something. I think whatever idea they may have or an idea that they've come up with, maybe putting out some sort of survey and getting at least 50 responses to help verify what their idea would be great to sort of see. I think that, being able to put themselves in that position and to start their entrepreneurial journey in any case that they want to would always be great to see. And I like to push people to really push themselves to be in an uncomfortable spot, because getting that market adjustment and making sure that their thing may work is always a good step to make. So that would probably be my challenge.
Thank you, Taylor. Thank you, Dave. That was another episode of Innovation Fuel. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Innovation Fuel. We are on all podcast streaming platforms, Google, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts.
Visit our website at www.ucanwest.ca/Innovation Fuel. Also, follow us on Instagram at innovation_fuel.